Hello, welcome to No Veto Video. I'm Katherine.
And I'm Carson.
And we're back to talk about Milk after a bit of a delay. We were, both of us, neither of us well enough to make a plague video. We both got taken out. So we are back. Hopefully none of us will cough while we are in the process of talking about this movie. You won't know. We'll edit it out.
We are doing much better, though.
Much better. Thank you for your concern. All right. Milk.
Yes. As Katherine said, we watched Milk just a couple of weeks ago now, I guess. Directed
it's a well-thought-out moment.
Directed by Gus Van Sant and starring Sean Penn, Emile Hirsch, Josh Brolin, Diego Luna, James Franco, and Victor Garber.
Among a handful of others. This is one of those cast of thousands movie. Milk, based loosely on the documentary The Life and Times of Harvey Milk.
Correct.
Is really a sort of middle-aged to death biopic of the famous San Francisco politician Harvey Milk, who really began to let America talk about LGBT community as a political force to be reckoned with, I think is how I want to put that.
I chose this movie because I'd never seen it, and I'd been wanting to for a while. It came out in 2008, so 10 years ago now.
We had plenty of time.
Yeah, and I just never got around to it with everything else on my to-read list, to watch list, to, all media to consume list. So I thought for Pride Month this year, it would be a good time to actually get around to watching it.
Yeah. So, where do we want to begin?
Well, one thing I noticed when I started watching this, and I commented to you as well at a few points, if you've seen And the Band Played On or any number of other movies set in the late 70s, early 80s in San Francisco around the Castro district, you'll actually notice a lot of names in here that you're probably already familiar with. Not just Harvey Milk, obviously, but Cleve Jones, and there were a few others.
So I guess my question to you is, do you think it's necessary to, could this be your entry point? Or is it helpful or grounding to already have some knowledge before coming to Milk? I mean, I know you can't speak because we already have
knowledge. I think this would be a good entry point. It's very focused, obviously, on just this one topic, the life of Harvey Milk, and what he did for the city. But some of the other characters, I don't think, gave them a well-rounded portrayal. It was a very narrow view of who some of the people were, which is a good way to introduce someone if you're looking for that, and then you at least know the names, so you can go look up more information about them if you want.
Yeah, I think it's not necessary to have an extensive background with these characters, but I think at least knowing that these folks are players in their own rights, helps ahead of time. Apparently, Bill Krause kind of passes very, very, very swiftly through this film. But, if you don't know who Bill Krause is, then it's well, who is that rando? I think it helps to know who some of the big players are.
Yeah. And
some of these other works kind of give you that.
Yeah.
Or, a perusal of the internet or something like that. It's not like this information's hidden. But for me, I feel like this film is greatly enriched by having some base knowledge.
Yeah.
That if you don't have it, it's fine, but it may not be as good. I don't know.
Well, what I appreciate about this over some of the other movies we've seen is, from what I understand, just from the little I know about some of the other people who were portrayed, this is fairly accurate to their actual lives. It's not very fictionalized as some of the other things, like And the Band Played On.
Right, which necessarily has to kind of smush things, especially for the film version. And
Yeah.
then, and it's told very much from one person's perspective.
Yeah.
You get a sense here that they really did a lot of interviewing, or that they spent a lot of time with, like, Cleve Jones to say,
Yeah.
who was Harvey Milk to you? And I think for me, one of the realest things is, it's very clear in watching this that, like, for Cleve Jones, feeling like he was taking on, I mean, whether it was explicitly done like it's done in this film, or more metaphorically, that he felt like he was picking up a banner, for the movement that Harvey Milk had to let go of as he moved into government, which was an important, role. But that there's this passing on, the torch of the bullhorn. In this case, if you hear some noise, it started raining here. So, but a nice, and I think Emile Hirsch really does turn in a really good performance of not sure if you want to trust somebody, moving in, saying like, I can do this better than you, and really sort of the movement of somebody getting deeply into the movement for your own right to stand in the sun. That is what I think ultimately Milk's legacy is.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised. I knew who Milk was, obviously, ahead of time, but I thought he was more of a polarizing actor in politics. He was polarizing at first, but he really brought many different groups together by the end.
Well, yes, and this film in particular paints almost the rosiest possible picture of Milk.
Yeah, part of me wants to go back and watch The Life and Times of Harvey Milk, because I think it covers some things a little more broadly.
I think neither of us are going to use our veto for this, but I think we both haven't seen this documentary and think that it's probably something worth checking out.
Yeah. I know that this drew heavily from it, but by necessity they had to. I mean, you can't make the exact same thing, or why bother?
Why bother making the same thing?
Yeah.
There's this playfulness and sweetness to Sean Penn's performance that, I mean, I didn't know the man, but but that really sort of, some of the things that could be nasty or mean feel, kind almost.
Mm-hmm.
Or like really bad choices that, like, in another character or in another film we would be like, what? Why would this man take up with that guy? There's no, like, that's a terrible choice. And yet in the hands of this actor, it comes off probably better than real life. Like, what in another actor's hands might come off like a savior complex.
Oh, yeah.
Comes off just as being genuine and kind in this portrayal. So and part of me wonders where others might have experienced that trait.
Oh, yeah.
That Harvey Milk seemed to have. And I don't know.
Speaking of that, they did a really good job of casting and makeup and costuming. The actors even got the mannerisms right for the most part. If you compare it to historic footage, which they do show a decent amount of at the end, and
this
somewhat
is just,
interspersed.
It's always a nice, like, curtain call to say, like, how did we do?
It's not necessary, but it definitely it helps not to be jarred out of what you're watching. Mm-hmm. Like, wait, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, the only actor for whom I really, really had a problem sort of buying his placement in the world was Victor Garber's Mayor Moscone.
Yeah.
Or Moscone. How do we say it? And it's just because I think he's not in the movie enough to really ground his performance. And so all you can do is see, like, it's that guy from, and then fill in the place where you know Victor Garber from.
Yeah.
And that's what you end up having. So I think of any of them, he's the only one that really makes me go, But I'm not a James Franco fan. I usually find him off-putting. He's gorgeous, but he's off-putting.
I didn't really even recognize him in the role. Like, until I saw the credits at the end. I knew James Franco was in it, but I couldn't for the life of me figure out who he was.
I was not having that problem. I knew right off who it was.
Yeah.
And he's introduced in a totally period-accurate but incredibly unfortunate hairstyle.
Yes.
And I was very worried that they were going to keep that hairstyle through the whole film. I was like, oh no, I really hope not. But he plays it very not broad and not smarmy in the way that James Franco can sometimes be in films.
Yeah.
Almost mother hen-like, which, you know, my guess is kind of who Scott was for Harvey.
Yeah.
And then at the end where they're getting back together again-ish, not really. By the way, it's a full spoiler episode. Again, obviously.
Well, it's over 10 years old in terms of the movie, and it's, you know, much older in terms of the actual events that it's based on.
I just feel bad about this. But it's clear they're never getting back together again. Yeah. Like, they're never, ever, ever getting back together, as the song goes. But that there's still a lot of love.
Mm-hmm.
And that politics makes it so that they can't be in a relationship, a romantic relationship anymore. But that doesn't mean that there's not care and that there's not support. And I think that's really difficult to do as a human being in a real relationship. And I have to imagine that portraying it in a film is even more, like, adds a level of difficulty on top of it. But I bought it. Like, I was in for the whole thing.
Yeah. So besides James Franco's unfortunate haircut, did you find anything else wrong with the movie?
I didn't find that wrong. I mean, I just...
objectionable.
I was going to have trouble watching it if... No.
I know you kind of touched on a couple of things, but I didn't know if you had any major complaints about it.
No major complaints about this film. And it borders on hagiography, but that's okay. I mean, we need that sometimes. I think we need to have heroes, and we need to have people that we look up to. And I think, especially now, when it's so easy to throw up our hands and say, well, we can't do anything about the things that we object to in our society. By choosing to start this film, not with any footage of Harvey Milk's childhood, but with police raids on bars.
Oh, yeah.
Newsreel footage of police raids on gay bars and men being arrested and put into the back of police wagons. That's where this film starts. And I think that says we're going to ground this in the reality of what it was to be a gay man in New York or California in the era when Harvey Milk would maybe be first understanding his sexuality.
Well, and I think they showed footage from Florida as well.
Right, Florida as well. So, to say, if you think you feel powerless, think about a time where just to congregate with people who share your, sexual interest, identity, whatever, would mean to expose yourself to the possibility of being arrested, publicly humiliated, to lose your job. If you worked for the government, you were going to lose your security clearance. To be viewed as a threat to the society, and then to say, that doesn't matter because we're going to still make something happen here for us. And that we're going to be this unsettling force that's going to make... And it takes a long time, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we're still not there. But that out of that backdrop, this story makes all the difference. So sometimes we talk about art and about why we need films like this. We talked about that in the Vampire's Assistant episode. That sometimes there are stories that we just need to tell because we need to know that that's possible as human beings. And I think this is one of those. And just to know that it's true matters all the more.
With regards to them not starting at his childhood, I honestly think even if they wanted to give more of a background on who Harvey was rather than jumping into Harvey's life as an adult, they probably wouldn't even have had time to cover it.
Yeah, I think it actually is a really smart choice to focus on sort of his rebirth.
Yeah.
His coming out as a new kind of life that we pretty much, and we don't even cover their relationship in New York.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very briefly. Although it's clear from earlier or from later points in the film that that's a painful time. Yeah. But we don't focus on that. We focus on whatever it was that spurred them to leave New York for San Francisco, to leave that closeted existence behind. And I'm not saying bad things about New York. If anyone's listening or watching from New York, it's just that for the purposes of this film, it's very, very clear that the movement from New York to California was for this character, this version of Harvey Milk, a liberating experience to say, I don't have to pretend anymore for the sake of whatever it was that I was pretending about. There are plenty of closeted people in California. Yeah, I'm not slamming New York here. It's just how it works in the narrative of this film.
Well, and it wasn't just New York. We're introduced to a lot of characters through the course of the movie who had come from the Midwest or the South or, other places in the Pacific Northwest, and they all found a home in the Castro district.
Well, and I think that there's this moment where he's talking about their ability to, I'm going to use some religious terms here, but bear witness. That by living their lives the way they lived them, even if you couldn't get to California, even if you couldn't get to San Francisco, you could know that you weren't sick and that you're not wrong. And by the way, on the off chance that anybody here needs to hear that message, if you're a gay kid or a trans kid, you're not sick and there's nothing wrong with you. And if you need help with that, there's lots of places to get help. Exploring what it means for you and how to navigate those waters. You don't have to do it by yourself. It's a message that, as adults, I think we all still need to be sharing. That Harvey Milk recruits us all still to this day. And that we all need to still be saying, there's nothing wrong with you. That your desire to love and be loved in return is not illness. So, by all means, you watch Milk, or if you've already seen it, let us know what you think. Maybe what do you think the message that we need to carry on from the life of Harvey Milk? Let us know in the comments down below. Come and find us on our website, novetovideo.com. We will check in both places and continue the conversation there.
Yep. And that brings us to the point in the show where we get to our override recommendations. Keeping with the theme of vetoes, we have override picks where if you like this movie and want some additional content to view, we'll give you those. Or if the movie is just horrible, we use this time to say, here's a better movie you could watch instead. Would you like to go first?
Sure. So I'm going to cheat.
Okay.
Hard cheat this week. I'm recommending both a miniseries and something I haven't seen yet. But I am recommending the HBO miniseries Show Me a Hero, starring Oscar Isaac. And it talks about city government, it talks about fight for justice, and for, in this case, the providing of reasonable housing for people of all income levels. Mm-hmm. So, and the challenge, it's a telling of a true story, and the challenge that the participants of the city government had in making that happen.
I'm also cheating this week, but not quite as much. I have one pick, which is unusual for me, just the one this week, but I haven't seen the movie. Beautiful Darling, which is the biopic following the career and possibly more of her life, I'm not sure, of the trans actress Candy Darling.
Okay, so those are our picks. Please check those out as well. Hopefully we will check them out too, since we're both cheating hard this week. Next time on No Veto Video, we're going to be checking out the film from last year, so a no spoiler edition, the movie BPM. It's a French film. It's available to rent in all the places where you can rent, like to stream, so Google Play or Amazon Prime. iTunes probably. I haven't checked, but I can't see why not. We'll probably be renting it from Google. And yeah, so that's that. Come back and find us.
So again, thank you for watching, and subscribe down below, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.